Hey guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about fear, anxiety, whatever you want to call it, however it manifests for you, feeling nervous. We've got a lot of unknowns going on right now. We have a lot of stuff in our financial world, in our health world, in our culture, the way we interact with each other, in our future plans, our summer plans. What's this summer going to look like? And there's a lot of stuff we don't really know. And there's a lot of, changes that may be permanent. And if they're not permanent, we just don't know when it's going to get back to normal or what the new normal looks like. And that can be really scary. And I don't know about you, but I'm going through kind of these phases, right? Like sometimes I feel totally fine. And then sometimes I start getting really freaked out. And if I'm able to come back to what's going on right now, I tend to be fine. When I come back to my mindfulness, when I come back to the fact that, okay, right now I'm healthy, right now all is well, and while I don't know what the future looks like, the right now is pretty okay. But I want to talk to you about managing stress management, and I also want to talk to you a little bit about what fear, anxiety, and stress does to our bodies, because it's super, super important that we're aware that this impact is going on and that we can take effort to mitigate it a little bit. So when we're in fear, when we're under stress, we're in our fight or flight, sympathetic, autonomic nervous system. And what that means is that we're ready to go. We are stressed, our body is reacting as if our survival is at stake, as if we're in danger. And so when that happens, our hormones are affected, our digestion's affected, our sleep quality is affected. There's a lot of things when we spend all of our time in sympathetic, then we're not recovering as well as we normally do. We're not creating stomach acid, so we're really not able to digest our food. So we're missing out on a lot of minerals and nutrients that we normally do. Sometimes our whole digestive system can be messed up. So maybe you're experiencing diarrhea or constipation when you aren't normally experiencing that. Sleep is super, super important for everything we do, from building muscle, recovering from exercise, getting that lactic acid out, rebuilding and repairing tissue that we may break down while we're working out. It's also when we detox. That's what I was going for, detox. So if our rebuilding is impaired, if our repair is impaired, if our digestion's impaired, if our detox mechanisms are impaired, our immunity is going to be affected, okay? So we know being in fight or flight all the time is a catabolic state. We're tending to break things down. Our blood pH tends to be a little bit more acidic, and so it's going to be harder for us to maintain bone density because our body is going to be pulling calcium out of our bones in order to buffer our blood pH. Our adrenals are going to be shot because they're making so much cortisol to try to mitigate the stress impacts of this time. And so what can we do, right? I mean, there's straight up things we can do to try to counter the stress. Meditation, breathing, baths, making sure that we're doing things for ourselves and self-care. And self-care isn't always manicures and massages, right? Self-care is really proper food, making sure that we're eating as many nutrients as possible to give our body the nourishment that it really craves. Self-care may be carving out time to read a book. Self-care could be carving out time to play and laugh and hang out with your friends digitally. Laughing is huge when it comes to mitigating stress. There is no way to be in fight or flight and laughing at the same time, right? You will shift over into parasympathetic. You will shift over into rest and digest, autonomic nervous system. It's impossible not to. So other strategies you can do to help shift over is deep breathing. Really, really slow, deep breathing can really help shift us out of fight or flight. sitting on the floor. And specifically, sitting on the floor right before meals can help shift us and help get us to a point where we may be able to create a little more stomach acid than we were when we were just running from the next thing, worried about finances, worried about our kids running amok, not being able to get away from them. Finally, dinner's on the table, and holy shit, just sit down and eat, will you? Not a good way of digesting our food. So sitting on the floor, deep breaths, carving out time for just being really mindful about where you are, how your body feels in the room, how your seat bones feel on the floor or on the seat, what the air feels like as it's entering your nostrils and leaving your lungs. Mobility is a huge piece of this. Spending some time with a lacrosse ball and exploring, like, where in my body is tight? Where am I holding this tension? Where am I manifesting this fear and this unknown in my body? And then how can I release that and let it go? And maybe it's from some help with the lacrosse ball and pressure. Maybe it's just awareness and sending your breath, sending your oxygen to that spot. There's a lot of things that people do to manage stress. Exercise is one I hear a lot, and that's kind of a mixed bag. So exercise is a stress. It's a good stress, but it is a stress. So if you're already in a stressed state, if your body's already kind of freaking out a little bit and you exercise on top of it, it doesn't necessarily make it better. It might feel better afterwards. You might be able to manage the stress a little bit better, but the actual exercise itself is an additional stress. So I encourage you, if you are exercising during this time, to make sure you're also taking a lot of time and effort to recover during this time, making sure that you're drinking the water, that you're getting the sleep, set a bedtime. I know this is something that I've really been struggling with, is I don't have to get up at any time, so I don't have to go to sleep at any time. And I've been staying up way, way, way too late. And there are certain times of the night, it's not just about total sleep, right? There's certain times of the night when certain parts of your body are detoxifying and repairing. And so my liver and kidneys are in that 10 p.m. to midnight time. And so if I'm missing that 10 p.m. to midnight sleep, then I'm missing that repair of that body tissue, that body part, those organs. And so we want to make sure we're really getting our sleep as much as possible, making sure that the room is super, super dark, taking extra care for sleep hygiene. Really, really dark room, no blue light within an hour before going to sleep, making sure any screens I use or lights I use are turned to a really amber color, using blue light blocking glasses if we have them, keeping the room cool. 60 to 65 degrees is pretty good for sleeping. Not eating sugar right before bed, maybe not eating anything right before bed. There's other things that can kind of help us go. Maybe a bath at the end of the night can help us shift into sleep time. But having that routine, having that sleep tradition's the wrong word, but things that we do every night before bed to help with that sleep hygiene. And then the last thing I really want to talk about is blood sugar. So a lot of times during stressful periods, we like to eat to make us feel better, right? And I know I reach for sugar a lot, and reaching for sugar and putting sugar in my body feels really good in the moment. But it's not really helping my body manage stress. It's actually doing the opposite, because if I'm spiking my blood sugar, my insulin comes in to get that blood sugar down really, really fast. That insulin causes a blood sugar crash. As soon as my blood sugar crashes, what comes in to save the day, to keep me from going into a hypoglycemic coma, right? It's cortisol, more stress, epinephrine and norepinephrine, again, more stress. And we want to really try to maintain low stress hormones as much as possible, both for the health of our adrenals, which are working really, really hard right now, keeping us well, and also just for the sake of health. And all of the things we talked about before, digestion and anabolicness. Like, I want to gain some muscle during this time. I don't want to tear down my bones and tear down my ligaments. And I want to really recover well, repair well, and keep my body in tip-top shape. So managing that blood sugar is super important right now. as it is always, but especially right now. So making sure that I'm staying away from those super high glycemic foods, staying away from processed sugars, processed carbs. If I have a sugar craving, getting it from like really organic, good fruit. And I have a lot of recipes for, you guys know I have a really big sweet tooth, so I have a lot of recipes for really nourishing, really high nutrient dense desserts. I've been posting some of them, but if you're looking for something, if you have a craving for chocolate cake, if you have a craving for, strawberry ice cream, please send me a message and I'll find you a recipe and send it your way. So I really hope you guys are well. I miss seeing you all the time. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here. I'm doing remote classes, so if you want to be a part of those remote classes, send me a message. We're doing both fitness classes and recovery mobility classes. I'm doing nutritional therapy remotely, so if you want to have a nutrition consult, give me a call. And I'm also doing personal training. So if you really feel like a class is overwhelming and you don't have very much equipment, or you have, specialty equipment, we can set up even one session to figure out a routine, figure out some programming, figure out some stuff that you can do to keep moving at home. So be well. Hope to see you soon.